All right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Episode 2 of the Built Different podcast. Very excited to be here as usual. My co-host, Randell Bennett. Coach Randell.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? What's going on?
How you been, Rand?
Why is that not working?
Randell's trying to get creative here with our
I
new
was trying to get
podcast
my
equipment.
sound going.
But hey, special thanks to Rocky Hill Community Television for their good job as usual, getting us out here. We're very excited again to be here and start this podcast going. Today we have a special guest. Before we introduce her, Rand and I are just gonna touch on a couple things. Today's episode really going to be about what we've been talking about and how we introduced our show, and what we're going to be discussing is the mental side of athletes. In our last show, we did discuss a little bit about the pressures, the mental side of things, and just getting through it, especially as a young athlete from the professional level down to the grade school. And I think, especially in our guest today, will help elaborate on that a little bit. But as far as like the pressures go, Rand, and societal, if you will, what they put on kids from a grade school level up towards the professional level, and obviously you played at the pro level, as well as I'm coach athletes that play at the professional level, and I see it firsthand. What's your take on that as far as what you see coaching at Cromwell and at the high school level?
Definitely this year, especially, we had a 22-game winning streak. And last year it was all great because it was, we were winning and it was new and everything was fun. But, as you start to climb up in numbers of winning every week and that pressure, I seen our kids start to shy away from anything to do with the winning streak. We usually say at the end of like a game, I'll do, 5-0 and the whole team will cheer. And I asked them, did they want it to be the streak number, 19-0, or just 7-0 for this season?
Right.
Like just 7-0.
Yeah.
Those things start to weigh on them. And I think the experience of playing, the experience of having a routine, learning how to deal with, going through these things, and having success, I have a routine. I learned to have a routine. So every week, I will prepare the same way. We have 5 days to prepare for the game. I'm going to do the same things on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, leading all the way up to the game.
Consistency.
Right.
That's
so it doesn't really affect me in those same ways.
Yeah, we did. I just firsthand this past couple of weeks, we had two of our teams, Weathersfield and Newington. They competed. They both won state championships last year. They both made it, deep into the playoffs. Where Weathersfield unfortunately got knocked out the first round, but Newington lost in the finals. And just the overall pressure, especially for high school athletes, to be able to withstand that pressure to repeat.
Right.
And parents repeat, and they have that in their heads. And then even I see it firsthand from going to the hockey rink and seeing what parents go through, and I'm calm compared to some of the things I see, and and now it's our tryout process. The trials are starting now, and everybody's running. They want to do this, they want to do that, and I think personally, you have to let the process go, and don't put that unwanted pressure on our athletes. And a lot of it comes from the home, and then the pressure gets put onto the kid, where the kid wants to perform well, and that pressure's on that young athlete, and even as a professional. But we can go on for days, and we will go on for the show, and we'll get into that a little bit. But I do want to introduce our guest today. Very special guest, of course, my sister, Kirstin Asadourian. She is the owner and founder of Living Become, and she also has a book out. 2 authors in the family. It was pretty cool. So welcome to the show, Kirstin. Thank you for coming down. Kirstin drove down from Boston for us today, and she's going to be able to give a lot of insight. She's in the Massachusetts school systems, talking to their teachers and some of their, and even talking about to some of her young athletes she works with. But I can let her carry on her own intro. Kirstin, welcome to the show. As Randall and I were talking about, maybe you can elaborate. I'd like for you to introduce yourself. Let our viewers and listeners know who you are.
Thank you, Pete. Thank you, Randall. I'm super excited to be here with you guys. I have a tremendous amount of respect for the job that both of you do on and off the field for our athletes. The more mentors and the more positive people we can put in front of our kids, the better. What I've been doing lately, and I'll just give this a very quick run through of how I started, why I started, and where I'm at right now with what I do. I'm a social worker and social emotional learning coach. And what that means is I'm helping teachers, students, athletes, other social workers just be able to create safe spaces for our children. Before COVID, we already saw an increase in anxiety, depression, self-harming, suicide. Post-COVID, that's our pandemic. That is our crisis.
Yep.
And we're speaking to it. We're paying lip service to it. You hear the CDC come out, the Surgeon General come out. The statistics are out there. All you have to do is Google them. They are real, but nobody is taking any real actions because they think, oh, our kids are back in school, our kids are back on the playing field, they're fine. But what we ended up doing to them was setting them back and taking away really vital learning experiences for them. Like Randall and I were talking before the show about how much students and athletes learn just being together, being forced to be on a team, being forced to develop those relationships, whether you're in a leadership role or not on a team, is very important because it's like, hey, these are your people. Figure out how to be with them. Learn about yourself while you're with them. And we took that away from them, and that's why you're seeing, your kids come out reluctant to own those wins, right? And to really take responsibility for themselves as players because it is a lot of pressure. It was a lot of pressure before, but now there's even more pressure, and not knowing how to deal with it is really what it comes down to.
Yeah, very well said. I think just to capitalize on that, I think COVID, not even adolescents, I think COVID screwed up a lot of things. Adults right down the line. Communication, I think, is an issue. Even from coaching, I can give examples of, when working out and having a team, pushing each other and holding each other accountable. They don't. The communication, the daily activity, the daily integration is gone, and it's very difficult. And it's very far in between, as far as that you see. As far as to elaborate more on that on the COVID, like what are you doing? I know you're going into schools and you're helping re-educate the students, not just student athletes. This goes beyond athletes, and I think you're even doing and talk about like how you're coaching the parents to deal with their kids at home.
Well, it's interesting because raising kids is hard, right?
Sure.
We know that.
Might be a full-time job, I
That's
think,
a
right?
fact.
Jesus, right?
There's challenges.
Taxi cabs and on immediately.
There's challenges anyway, and I have a son. He's 14 right now, and I do a lot of what I do, and I'm inspired by him. Early on, he was diagnosed as, I don't own this diagnosis. He doesn't own this diagnosis as being socially autistic. Basically, he's just doesn't feel comfortable in social situations, and it's practice for him to have a conversation. It's practice for him to engage with other human beings. Right? But that's true for all of us, right? We've all been in a very different kind of social circumstance than young people are today. We lived in a physical world, right? They're living in a physical and digital world that is seamless to them. So Gen Z and alphas, they don't know any different. It's one ecosystem. So we're having to meet them where they are. And what I'm doing now is I'm in schools and I'm teaching what that looks like. I'm guiding teachers to create those spaces for their students within their classrooms, because the way we've educated our young people from the beginning, and you think about it, the education hasn't changed since the Industrial Revolution. We wanted to train people to get them into our factories and working. We wanted workers. We didn't want thinkers. We didn't want human beings. And if I can really emphasize one thing right now is, you talk about those life skills of communication, of team building, of being able to time and task manage. Just be creative and be human. That's what we need to teach.
Right.
We don't need to teach to standardize tests. We
It's
don't.
almost like they're programming robots. And
Exactly.
That's what they want.
That's what they've been doing. That's what they're continuing to do. So when they call me and say, "Hey, we need our kids to have soft skills," no, they're life skills. These are very important skills. And the beautiful thing is when there's a student who does become a student athlete and has the team as a vehicle in which to practice these skills, it's amazing. And you as coaches have that flexibility, whether you're in the training room or on the field, to teach these lessons that teachers aren't teaching our kids. So I'm in there saying, hey, here's a different perspective. We really want to build self-awareness and self-confidence on our young people so they can go out and have an understanding of what's important to them, right? What they value, and go out in the world and create change based on that, and not just be the worker or the robot.
Yeah, well put. Like, I think, like, even with training purposes, I think you need to, again, not just talking about the athlete, individuals in general, they have to be uncomfortable. You have
Absolutely.
You have to put them in. I used to hate, like, public speaking. I would never want to do it, but I knew that I wanted to do it, and I have to get myself better at doing it. So I'd make myself uncomfortable, and it was the most uncomfortable feeling. But now it's over a period of time. You practice it, like Kirstin said, like, you practice it. You have to get out there and you just do it. You can't just talk about it. And we've talked about these things, like, just people talk too much. Just go out and do it. You have to implement what you're being taught.
I think having that understanding helps you have a purpose, though. You know what I'm saying? There's so many things that they see that go along with, just being an athlete, right? But it's always the glitz and the glamour, right? You got NIL now, and you go to college campuses, and the running back at Texas has a Lamborghini deal. So what's your driving force as a 13-year-old that wants to play college football? I probably want to go get that car.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So they're basically painting a bad picture. Like, I mean, it's
you can have that as one of your goals, but also understand your purpose. So when you get to college, I should be coming here to use the proper resources, right? Use the guys in compliance, use the nutrition person, use all these different avenues that they have. They have all that stuff there. It's just the Lamborghini that's parked in front of the building when you walk in that catches your attention, that makes you not pay attention to everything else.
right.
I think, Randall, by saying purpose, right, we don't guide them into learning their purpose. We don't guide them into saying, like, really figure out what you value and what's important to you, because within that and having that level of self-awareness, they're able to find their purpose. It's not coming from the outside noise. It's not coming from a parent or a teacher or a coach, but it's within them and their own wisdom and their own drive, bringing them to that. And that's when you're living purposeful, right? But getting them to block out that noise is key. That's
eliminate distractions, man.
Yeah, it's funny you say eliminate the noise. I've been doing these talks a little bit, and I'm telling the people, just keep yourself in a bubble. It's got to be a bubble of you and your team and what you guys believe in and what what's going on here. Don't worry about what's going on in other places. Through your findings, Kirstin, what, like, as far as, like, are you seeing depression, anxiety out of these kids? Like, are you? Because we certainly see it, but, like, from you're in the your boots are on the ground, you're in the trenches helping pull these kids out and their parents, et cetera. So how much depression, how much anxiety, would you say is a factor in this problem?
I think we have to be careful with what we name it and how we name it. Look, human beings by nature, we get anxious, right? Our nervous systems send us signals, right? And we want to survive, so we go in survival mode, right? And that's that fight or flight, and your mind starts racing and your body manifests different physical things. You get a stomach ache, a headache, right? And so I would see kids who would get sick every single morning because they didn't want to go to school. they were anxious because they were told school was unsafe for so long. And then it was like, oh no, you get to go back and guess what? It's safe, right? They weren't necessarily believing that. So yes, we're seeing more anxiety and we're seeing more depression, and that is manifesting in a tremendous amount of self-harming, cutting, burning. But I also want to say that with this, it's not like this hopeless situation. We need to have conversations. Parents need to have conversations with their kids. And absolutely, it's uncomfortable.
Do you think, I'm going to interrupt you, do you
Yeah.
think parents are in denial over this?
There's a lot of parents, and I don't think it's denial. I think
They
it's
just don't know.
right.
Yeah, they don't see it.
It's what we're doing as a society, right? It's always been uncomfortable to talk about mental health and behavioral health issues, especially with young people, right? Because it's a hard thing to deal with. But guess what? It's out there. It's always been out there. Even when we were coming up, it was out there, but no one was talking about it.
Right.
Now we're starting to talk about it, which is fantastic. But now we really need to start doing something to support them. And that means at home, please don't think that just because your teenager is in his or her room doing their homework, that they are okay. Check in with them. Have family dinners. I know it's hard, trust me. Like, I have a household where everyone's running in 15 different directions at all times, but we try and have family dinner at least 2 or 3 times a week. I get it. My kids are athletes, so no one's really home. But check in with them. Have dates with them. Do things with them so you're in constant dialogue and they know that you're someone that they can speak to. And coaches are great for that too.
I was going to say one thing I notice from coaching and being on, like, whether the field, the court, or in the weight room for that matter, is confidence. Like, I see, like, the confidence in, like, how do we bring out that confidence in these athletes? And I think it goes along the lines of, all these issues. Like, I know you're a good athlete. I know you can perform at the level.
I always say confidence comes from preparation. So to me, I'm like, if you're not confident, then that means you haven't been preparing all week. I talked about having that routine earlier, and I'm kind of on my guys about getting into a routine. Don't just show up to practice and then think the team stretch is where we start to stretch.
Right,
get out early, get yourself loose, work on some things, then you'll be ready to go.
It's almost like being different. Do a little something different that's going to separate yourself.
You have to separate yourself.
Right.
So I think sometimes, am I putting too much pressure on them by trying to pressure them into making it easier for them, right? Like, I want you to be confident. I want you, but I know this is where it comes from. I've been confident in my life because I've been prepared. But you might see my confidence and be like, well, my head coach is confident, so I'm confident, right? And then we get in these situations where now we're in the game and I'm not coming off the sideline, right? It's you out there versus that guy who's hopefully been preparing all week as well too. So at some point, you guys are gonna butt heads.
You make a good point too, as far as, like, from a coaching standpoint, like the coach being confident. It's like 100%. You have to, like, instill that confidence. Like, I want my people, or my players, not my people. I want my players and athletes to resemble me. Like, my toughness, my hard work, my intensity. I want you to play like that. I can't get out there and play. So I think it's a feed in being, role models, if you will. We have the pressures too. As like you as like a life coach, and you're going into these school systems, and us having these kids in front of us, we have to live up to something. We have to be able to handle and balance.
Can you talk about, like, your mentality before you have to go and give, like, a speech to a team or talk to somebody? Because it's like, before a game, I got to think about a few things. I got to hit these points all week, and then Friday night before the game, I'll be able to give the speech and just reiterate the points that I've been saying all week. But you don't have that same luxury. You're coming in cold turkey, and you have to get this group to believe. So
listen, I don't care who you are. At some point, we all get imposter syndrome. Like, who the F am I to be doing this, right?
Right.
But you shut that down because
That's a good point, really. Yeah, good. Continue. But I think about that all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
But you shut that down because you have had the preparation. I have the education. I've been doing this for 25 years. And I think that what brings me back to getting me fired up to be in front of a group of kids or teachers or whoever it is on our team that day is purpose, right? And this is how I see it in my head, is that I believe certain things. I know things to be very important because I value them. And in order to go out in the world and create that change, I talk about, like, I have to put it in action. I can't just feel it emotionally or intellectualize it and be like, oh, if only I could, right? I need to make it action. And that's the difference between when people talk about passion and purpose. Passion is that emotion, right? But purpose, you're putting it into action, right? And the more you do it, the more confident you become. So I think, like, for me, it's always, I believe so much in what I'm doing. I believe in changing the way we look at education and the way we educate and guide our young people, that's what gets me fired up. I love being in front of them. The more young people I can be in front of, the happier I am, the more I get to.
I think also it comes from your soul too. Like, you know, it's internal. Like, even when you're, like, presenting to someone and you're giving a pregame, that's, like, in your soul. Like,
it's that passion.
Yeah, it's your passion. And
sometimes it comes out of me, and I'm like, I got steam coming out the ears.
Right.
I love it. And other times I can do it calm, but I'm working on the calm side of it. But
I mean, we've done things together, you know, talks and stuff. And, you know, when we did a talk, Rand was pretty calm, and I get fired up because it's just like the passion that you're and the message that you believe so strongly in. And it's the same thing for you, Kirstin, like, you know, that you believe in that message. Like, that, this is what, I believe in it. This is what's going to help you. And, you know, it's proven, obviously. And then, you know, you just can't go up and give a talk and not be confident in yourself and not present it the right way. So, you know. You got to believe in yourself and have that confidence. And I think when you're presenting, that confidence spools over to, you know, the rest of the audience, if you will, and whoever's listening to you.
But that's the same whether you're taking the field or the ice, whatever. We have to model that. You know, you talk about modeling that for your athletes. Like, if coach isn't confident that we're, you know, ready for this and that we can actually win this game, I'm not going to really be feeling it, right? So that's why I say, like, as an adult, whether you're a parent or a teacher or just someone who is able to be, who has the, you know, fortune and blessed to be around young people, model that, you know, don't, you know, and granted, like, no human being is perfect, and that, you know, to model imperfection to them and how we recover from that is a great thing too. So yeah, it comes down to purpose and confidence. Absolutely.
I don't think in the past 30 years, I'd say, I'm just thinking right now, in the past 30 years, I don't think I've entered into an arena and thought I'd fail. Even if I lost, I know I'm going to try and succeed and do whatever I have to do.
I don't think I have. Looking back,
you might have a doubt or two.
I got my butt whipped a couple times on the field, so I'm like, did I really think I was going to win that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you always have that doubt, but again, as a coach and as a presenter and as someone that's, you know, people are looking for you for those answers and that motivation and that confidence. You know, you got to believe, like, I'm going to go in and win, like, because anything could happen.
I've definitely become
we've seen it firsthand,
more mindful,
you know what I mean?
Over the years of, like, before I would just, like, you know, I'm going into year 7 as a head coach, and I was still too close to being in player mode when I took over. So I'm used to playing. You know, I've played in front of some big crowds before in my life, and when you have a big crowd like that, you can say whatever you want. And, like, people can't hear you. But now I coach at Cromwell High School. It's not really the same effect, right? You know what I'm saying? So I had to become more mindful of those things and kind of try to tame the beast a little bit. Learning from other coaches. I watch a lot of NFL coaches and big-time college coaches, and it's like, biggest play will happen, and they're just, like, standing there stone-faced just watching the game, like, clap. I'm like, I need to tap into that.
Right.
Because your players will hang on your reactions to certain things, and I think just being mindful of everybody's here to watch the game, but they're really watching me too. You know what I mean? So just trying to, you know, internalize all those things and just keep it going.
Right.
You know, throughout the game. But yeah.
What do you, Chris? What do you like as far as like your practices? Like when is meditation something that you're telling these kids to do? Yoga, working out. I know. I just want to talk too. I know that we're running a little. We're just talking away here, but I also wanted to talk a little bit about your book that you have out, and that's like all movement stuff. And this is Living Become Self-Discovery Journal. You can get this on Amazon. Everyone see that? Yep, he's got it up there. So it's available on Amazon. It's a really good read. There's activities in there. Even people, parents can purchase this, and you can implement this at home. I think it's not being biased at all, but I think it's a wonderful thing to implement in physical education classes, PE classes, all these different avenues that this can go on. But why don't you talk a little bit in your motivation, your passion to actually, publish this and get this out to the public?
First, creating mindfulness practices, whatever resonates with you. And that could be meditation, it could be yoga, it could be just some breath work. But anything that brings you back to center and grounds you is perfect. And there's no right or wrong way of doing it. I think that's what we really get caught up on.
Do you think that's what's going on, where there's no grounding? You just said the word grounding. I think everyone needs to be grounded. People say walk barefoot on the earth and just be grounded with earth and stuff.
If that's what resonates with you and that's what your mind, body, and soul need, absolutely do it. But you really, you can have different practitioners. I always make suggestions, but I always follow up those suggestions with, unless it resonates with you, you're not going to do it, right? And if you don't do it, it's not going to work, right?
It's almost like a scapegoat too. Not to get off from your book, but like, oh, I went to the doctor and the doctor said this. I went to this and that. And then, that's it. You're done. But there's no practice. And it's just like getting better at football, hockey, basketball, whatever it is. You have to practice what you preach. You have to practice your beliefs.
Absolutely. Like I meditate for an hour a day, half hour in the morning, half hour in the evening. And I have gratitude practices. Gratitude practices are amazing. Write down 3 things you're grateful for every morning when you wake up. Every night before you go to bed, write down 3 more things that you're grateful for. Those things can be the same, but just making yourself aware of like, hey, there's some really great things going on in my life, right? The journal. The journal came about through COVID. I was doing workshops within the schools, and it was more of the Living Become Change Maker workshop, which was really a leadership type workshop based on values-based leadership, having kids really uncover what was important to them, what they value, and then creating projects around that. It's an 8-week workshop. COVID happens, and I'm like, I don't want to keep kids online any longer. I'm not going to do this. I'm just going to put it on hold. What ended up happening, I was contacted by parents saying, our kids really need something, right? So I had a small group of kids. There was 10 of them, and we were online for half an hour, and I would give them things to do outside, and it was all movement-based, because the mind, the body, and the heart are all connected. And after a great workout, how do you feel?
Absolutely.
We can conquer the
right?
world, right?
Your body is signaling to your mind. It's almost like you're medicating yourself, right? Like you get those happy hormones. Everything is just stimulated. So the more we can tap into that, the better. And I think, creating a movement plan, whether you're out walking or running, playing a sport, is fantastic. If you're doing it as a family, that's even more fantastic. My family, we all love to climb together. That's our thing. We go for my son and I went for a run yesterday morning together. Those are things that I like. I get so excited. I can't even I am excited to know that my kids want to do those things with me. But the journal really teaches how to connect the mind, the body, and the heart. So you're doing a physical movement, whether it's burpees or a wall sit, or everything is accessible. There's no difficult movements. Then you're thinking, so there's questions that get you thinking, and then there's questions that get you feeling.
Whole little workbook here.
Yeah.
Then you even have them taking notes.
How is it like 30 days to get through it, or you can just
you go at it at your own pace, and you can do it over and over again. It's not like I'm through that thing, I'm done. You can just keep going through it.
I can't wait to do it tonight. I'm definitely gonna start.
You have Trey. Get Trey going.
Yeah, I did hear I like the workout together as a family. I was at a football camp over the summer, and I met this family, and they had one son that was going to Penn State to play football, and then the 8th grade son was at the camp playing quarterback, and it was like, he's next, right? He's going to be a Division I player too, and I was like, I got to talk to the parents. I got to tap in. I got to figure out what's going on in this family, right? And the mom was saying, she was like, when they turned 5, we started doing like family workouts together, and we would go to like the stadium. Like if we were in Boston, and we'd try to go to Harvard, and we would run the stadium stairs.
That's cool.
And you know what I mean? And she was like, as long as you're doing it with them, they'll love to do it. And like, I was just sitting there, mental note, taking everything down, right? But it's like,
It's true.
yeah.
You're instilling that at 5 years old. They start, so they don't know any better.
Right.
It's just like we talked about it. Like you're a product of your environment. So like whatever like is around you, you're gonna adhere to that. And so it's if you go with that working out at 5 years old and you're implementing that, like this is a part of our life. This is what we're doing. There's no if, and, or but. Like you have to work out. It's a lifestyle, and I think the sooner you implement it, when you had Trey, you called me up like, hey, what are you doing? And I gave you the best advice: get the Nerf ball and start pegging it at his head.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Hand-eye coordination.
He
can catch. He's 2.5. He can catch. It's amazing, but it worked.
Well, yeah, man. So, Kirstin, you have your book. What's your next step? Like, where do you want to go from here? Like, where do you see your next? The avenue of the book is. This is great. We have it on Amazon. People can get it there. So what's next? What are your goals for the next year or so?
There's a lot happening. So amazing. I want to continue to build out educational materials such as the journal. Right now I'm working on an app. We talked about meeting young people where they are. They're online. They're in their phones. So I'm working on an organizational application for them to be able to time and task manage in a gamified way. So they're learning those skills and hopefully having fun. Working on a certification program to get other teachers and coaches certified in the Living Become methods. And I will continue to be out in schools. There's a couple grants that I'm a part of right now in Massachusetts, and to definitely grow beyond Massachusetts. So that's probably enough, right, to keep me busy for the next year. But whatever comes, whatever comes my way, and hopefully Pete and I will continue to be able to reach teams and be able to access students through athletic directors and just get in that way, because sometimes, like we talked about, there's a little bit more leeway within the coaches realm rather than the teachers, because coaches have a very special role to play in their students' lives. So
yeah, I think coaches are certainly they look up to you. There's number one, and even phys ed teachers. So this is in the phys ed departments. I just think it would be a wonderful thing. Just as far as movement, this is a section that we're going to focus on. Or even I see this in schools. After the Pledge of Allegiance, we take a couple movements and we just do it together. So it's it's great. It's great stuff. I'm proud of you.
Thank you
for doing that. I think she actually took my coattails and followed me because I wrote the book, so she had to write a book.
Yeah, I had a one-up them.
No, I'm kidding, but I think we're coming close on our time here. As usual, man, we really covered a lot of good things today. Really want to put home that message, man. I know we talk about it. It sounds repetitive, but like the message of just being mentally tough, just staying in your lane. I mean, especially as a young athlete, you got to be able to just keep yourself focused, and it's so hard. It's so hard, and I see it with my own kids, between school, between other avenues of distraction. We have to be better. We have to, as a society, we have to be better and have that support for our kids and just being able to, keep them in that bubble, keep, and not in a bad way, but you know, hey, if you want these goals, this is what you have to do. This is where you have to be. And you know, I'm more of the tough, you know, I wear the tough shirt, if you will. But stop feeling sorry for yourself. And you know, I know it goes beyond that. And Kirstin might be like, you know, you're it's harsher, but like, it does go beyond stop feeling sorry for yourself. But there's ways to get out of it with, you know, the mental toughness and the education that Kirstin's offering, and you know, the coaching that, you know, you're providing, Rand, and all that together. It's just got to, you know, come. And people, I feel as though people just really need to buy into it and recognize that there's issues, you know, with athletes and, you know, regular human population, you know, and again, to reiterate back, I think it has to do with that COVID, you know, and just, you know, people getting complacent.
We don't really learn that you need something until, you know what I mean, you fail once, and then you're like, maybe I should have been paying attention to that a little bit more. So I think, you know, we've all gotten to this place where we understand that it's necessary, because we've all been in a space where we've been like, I could have used that back then. You know what I mean? When I was going through, you know, playing early, not really understanding, you know, the magnitude of some of the opportunities that come your way. You know, you're 21 and you talk about those distractions, you know. People start offering you things, and, you know, you become the toast of the town, and then the next thing you know, it's like, yeah, that doesn't last forever. No. It's not going to be here forever.
Short-lived.
So, yeah.
But, again, we're going to wrap this show up. Thank you again, Kirstin. Living Become. You can find Kirstin. Why don't you tell people how they can find you if they're.
You can find me on my website, which is livingbecome.com, or on Instagram, living underscore become at living underscore become. Yeah.
All right. And then if you guys, you know, our viewers, at any time you guys have questions for us, you can always contact us at thebuiltdifferentshow@gmail.com. It's right up there for you. Any questions, any topics you want us to talk about, we're going to keep this going. Again, as always.
Send us questions, man.
Yep.
Send us questions.
I appreciate everyone watching, Rand, as always. It's a pleasure. My co-host, Kirstin, again, thank you. Thank you to Rocky Hill Public Access Television, Mr. Michael O'Toole. You guys do a great job. Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.